Hey everyone, Tuto back from Spyral Gameplay, this time with maybe the spiciest game I've ever had. It's certainly my favorite game I've ever played a Spyral in Master Duel. I am going second against Drytron, and as you can see, I've got no hand traps. They're going to have a full Drytron combo with all the Ben 10 and Ava shenanigans they want, and I'm going to have nothing to stop it. Though, you might be able to tell, I do have maybe the best going second card besides a hand trap, Forbidden Droplets. And this hand is a pretty good Forbidden Droplets hand. Normally, you don't want to see Jet Synchron, Destrudo, and Assault Mission in your opening hand. Destrudo and Jet Synchron aren't too bad, but together, they're actually kind of bad because you don't have great Halqifibrax searches otherwise with Jet Synchron in your hand. But with the droplets in hand, they're not that bad because these cards function in the graveyard almost as well as in the hand. I mean, Destrudo is the same card either way. Assault Mission wants to be in the graveyard, and Jet Synchron works in the graveyard pretty well too. So I'm going to have the droplets out there herald, but the funny thing about Drytron is they play pretty well through droplets because, as you can see, the Ava is going to search a herald of the orange light and a herald of the purple light. The interesting thing is that you might want to note when your opponent does something like that is they almost certainly have the other herald of orange light in hand if they search an ancillary herald like that, because they almost always want two orange lights in hand just as backup in case their herald of ultimateness gets kaiju'd or Forbidden Droplets affected. So they're going to have a second orange light. I'm playing around the fact that I have to expect two orange lights to break their board. So that's very important to my decision-making process. They do it. The purple light's not going to be too relevant against me. I think that's interesting there because there's a lot of Eldritch in the queue right now, so they want to have an easy searchable out to certain Eldritch cards like Skill Drain. But yeah, here we are. IP Masquerena and Herald and full combo. So the most interesting thing about this turn is the card I draw. So when I drew this card, I sat and thought for maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes about my best play. The only legal targets for this Monster Reborn, I do want to lead off a Monster Reborn because you can do the trick where you play a spell card, bait your opponent's negate, and then send the spell card as one of your costs for Forbidden Droplets. It's just a free Droplets negate at that point, and you still get to resolve it. But my only legal targets are Mu Beta Fafnir and Ava. And normally you don't want to summon your opponent's Ava because if you use it as material for something, they get the Ava trigger on their own. And, you know, I have the Droplets to negate Beatrice to keep them off of that, but the funny thing here is I actually do want to get Ava instead of Fafnir because it has a level. Now, Xyz monsters like Fafnir or Beatrice, they have ranks, and ranks are not the same as levels, and Destrudo needs a monster on the field with a level to activate. So if I'm going to assume my opponent has two orange lights in hand, I need to match up all my opponent's interactions with my interactions, right? So I have droplets. I can droplets for 3. I can send Monster Reborn, Destrudo, and Jet Synchron, and keep the Assault Mission in hand to send for Jet Synchron's effect, and I can negate all 3 of their monsters, right? That's perfectly good. And they're going to have 2 orange lights. So I have to match up their orange lights with my own effects, so I could use Jet Synchron, bait an orange light, and use Destrudo and bait an orange light. Funnily enough, that's kind of close to what happened, so I'm going to Monster Reborn some of their Ava, because that's just what I have to do, right? And we use droplets, sending 3 cards, and funnily enough, my opponent, to try to negate the Monster Reborn, sends an orange light. I guess they're thinking, oh, you know, he's playing a card, I don't need to keep these orange lights in hand, I can just use Herald to send cards, or maybe he doesn't have a better send, maybe his hand is just purple light, orange light, and actually that's what it is. He wants to keep the versatility of having purple light available too, because he doesn't know my hand yet, or my deck yet. So funnily enough, I'm outing one orange light by his own effect, but because I'm going to use his Ava as material, I'm actually going to search out his other orange light. So that's a funny thing, and it does come up later that the way I handle that is very interesting. So I do get the Ava on field, so now I'm going to use Jet Synchron to discard Assault, and my opponent kind of has to negate this. Any tuner on the board plus a monster is going to be a Halqifibrax activation, and the funny thing is if I use Ava as Halqifibrax material, they don't get to orange light the Halqifibrax, because they would resolve on the same chain. Halqifibrax would summon, Ava would be in the graveyard, Halqifibrax would resolve, and Ava would resolve, and they couldn't use the orange light search on the Halq. So they actually want to stop me before I get to Halq off of Ava. And that's actually going to play into my next play, where I'm going to Destrudo. My opponent has no response. They did send the orange light, so I don't, the purple light, so I don't know any more cards in their hand at this point, I don't believe. And I'm going to turn the Ava into a Linkuriboh. Now this seems insane. Why am I giving my opponent the Ava trigger before I make any actual significant plays? Well, I want them to use orange light on my Halqifibrax. See, our Spyral deck isn't a typical Halqifibrax deck. We don't have like a Despot 001 to go into a full, you know, synchro climbing ridiculous Auroradon combo. We use it as like extenders to get into Destrudo and Jet Synchron, which I've already used up. But I'm using Linkuriboh to put Ava in my opponent's graveyard so they get their orange light before I summon my Halqifibrax. Right? I didn't want to summon Halqifibrax on the same chain as Ava. I want to resolve Ava, then resolve Halqifibrax, bait out their third and final orange light. So now they can't orange light my Quik Fix, which is my actual relevant combo piece. The Quik Fix in my hand and the Assault in my graveyard are the only relevant cards in this entire situation. Everything else before this was just bait and negates. So I can summon Quik Fix, get Drone, Assault in Quik Fix, and summon Drone. Either way, the order doesn't matter there. But because I hadn't used my normal summon yet, I can now go into double Helix. Now, as you might be able to tell from the title, I'm probably going to mention it there, my opponent does have Nibiru in hand. If my opponent knew my deck better, and knew how Spyral worked better, and knew how Nibiru played into Spyral better, they should drop Nibiru right now. Because after this, it's too late. And we're going to see just high. So I'm going to double Helix. I put a bad spell on top of their deck, and I'm going to summon Master Plan. Now, at this point, if they Nibiru me, I get Resort, I get Super Agent and Sleeper. I can pop all their monsters, attack over it, and they'll have, you know, a couple of bad cards in hand. They'll have a Nibiru on the board. You know, actually they wouldn't have a Nibiru on the board. I'd pop that. They'd have like nothing on the board to out me, and they'd have a Preparation of Rites and some dead card in hand, maybe a Diviner or something. Something I could pop with my Sleeper because I'd have a Super Agent too. And I'm going to summon Quik Fix, discard Assault, or discard Rescue Mission, and get Big Red. Now, here's an important thing. If you're going to learn anything from this game besides me patting myself on the back for how well I played, learn this. If your opponent's only interaction left is Nibiru, and you've like ruled out all their hand traps, and they're giving you prompts for a Nibiru after your 5th summon, like I'm getting right now, the important thing is you can play through a Nibiru as long as you have Master Plan in graveyard and 1 revival effect. And I'm going to show you exactly why. At this point, I know my opponent has Nibiru, so I'm actually going to burn one of my 2 revival effects because I only need 1. I have the Big Red. I can turn any 3 monsters into an Appaloosa and keep going from there, and that's what I'm threatening right now. My opponent kind of sees the writing on the wall there, so they're just going to Nibiru, and they summon, and I get a token, and here's why that matters. The Nibiru token is material. I actually don't need the Super Agent, and I'm going to show you why in a second. I'm going to Big Red back my Master Plan. Master Plan can get Rescue, and now I can go into my Knightmare Cerberus. Now, if you don't have Cerberus in your list because it's a cuttable card, you can actually use Barricade Board Blocker in this instance if you haven't used it already in your combo. Or if they have a back row, you can make Knightmare Pheonix, or if you have a Super Agent and you have no other targets but you're in Resort, you could just make a Knightmare Unicorn to discard the Rescue Mission at this point. But I do have the Cerberus, so I can discard the Rescue, pop the Nibiru, activate Rescue, summon Master Plan. And this is what I meant by not needing Super Agent. If I didn't have Super Agent, I could actually just go, when I go into Knightmare Unicorn here, instead of using the Super Agent and the Knightmare Unicorn to make Access Code Talker, I could actually use the Unicorn to discard my last Rescue Mission, spin back my own Resort, and then summon Master Plan or any other Spyral with this Rescue Mission, and make Access Code Talker. So the Super Agent wasn't necessary, so if you already used your Super Agent earlier in the combo, you don't need it. So you can now summon Sleeper, and as you might guess, 5,300 plus 2,800 is 8,100 damage, and that's more than 8,000 life points. And that is game, everyone. Yeah, maybe my favorite game ever. The fact that I foresaw the fact that I needed to make Linkuriboh off of the Ava to get my opponent to orange light my Halqifibrax so they don't know that I don't have any more combos, was just maybe the best play I've ever made, and I thought it was really fun. If you guys like that kind of content, hey, throw a like, comment, subscribe down. I love to interact with you guys in the comments, and yeah, see you guys next time. Have a good one. Bye.